Somebody's penetrating the World Economic Forum, and I'm thrilled about it. I can't wait to ask Kevin about this. Joining me now, Kevin Roberts, great president of the Heritage Foundation. Kevin, World Economic Forum is meeting, and you're going? There's no way you got invited to the WEF.
Oh, Jesse, man, first of all, thanks for having me. But when that invitation came in last month, I turned to my colleagues and I said, this is like a college buddy playing a joke on me. They know what they're getting, right? But after thinking about it, I mean, this is not just high on my list. It's not on my list at all to ever do. I thought, well, as president of the Heritage Foundation, I get to advocate on behalf of everyday real Americans and free people around the world. I'm accepting this invitation, and I'm going to go read them the riot act.
Okay, now, who exactly are you going to be meeting? Because I got to tell you, some of these people, Kevin, Yuval Noah Harari and some of these evil demons that work for that organization, are they going to sit down with you?
Well, we'll see. Supposedly, apparently, the attendance at the session that I will be in is well registered. Maybe that will change between now and then. But the one thing we're counting on, Jesse, just to be frank, is that we're going to use their platform, their reach in media to deliver a message that is rarely, if ever, mentioned there. And it's a message about truth. It's common sense. It's what you cover on your show every day, right? But the point is, they're going to hear the truth from me about the nonsense of COVID lockdowns, about flying there on private jets and talking about climate change, about basically, ultimately, taking away our self-governance, our sovereignty, ripping all of that away, because that's what we talk about at Heritage. That's what you talk about. And maybe, just maybe, Jesse, a few of them will have their minds changed or at least be willing to listen. And I certainly go there in that spirit with the heart of a teacher. But ultimately, I'm going to be sort of wagging my finger, which they like to do to us.
Yes. You're going to be lecturing on what to expect from a Republican administration in 2025, Lord willing. And Kevin, obviously, I'm going to be rooting for the Republican, whoever it is, and I'll be voting for the Republican. But the more and more I see how pathetic this DC GOP is, the less excited I get. We're about to get another spending deal that doesn't cut a single nickel. Chuck Schumer's bragging about it. Why am I supposed to be excited about a Republican administration? They locked us down for COVID. They spend as much or more than Democrats do. What are Republicans supposed to be?
Yeah, well, let me mention this preface very importantly. It's a huge agreement with you. We at Heritage are conservatives first. In fact, we're not capital R Republicans at all. And it drives Republicans in D.C. crazy when they hear me say that. But the reason we say that is because the Republican establishment in D.C., including when they've been in the executive branch, has spent too much money. They shut us down and during the COVID years, and they shouldn't have done that, to your point. So ultimately, we should be excited about a conservative administration if and only if that man or woman leading the ticket, leading the movement, is willing to hire thousands of conservative men and women, most of them not in D.C., that is, people who are willing to go into the administration and basically dismantle the administrative state. If we have them, Jesse, and we have the popular will of the American people, and we have great ideas that my colleagues at Heritage and other really good policy groups have come up with, I'm hopeful about the American future. But to your point, if that doesn't happen, basically we're just going to be managing American decline.
Klaus Schwab is warning his people about an anti-system movement. I wonder if he watches the show. Anyway, here was Klaus.
You have this anti-system movement. What we are seeing is a revolution against the system. So fixing the present system is not enough. Now there is, of course, an anti-system which is called libertarianism, which means to tear down everything which creates some kind of influence of government into private lives. It's dismantling the system.
Kevin, why do they hate free people so much? Because that to me looks like one of the great overarching stories of the world right now, the free governments of the world turning against the free people.
It's the only way to understand the world, that framing that you just mentioned. And I sit here watching Schwab and my blood's boiling because he's the CEO of the system. We talk about, I try to raise my kids, we've talked about this before, never to work for the man. He is the man, right? But to your question, the reason that they hate free people so much is because if we, the people, have freedom, if we're able to exercise our sovereignty, Jesse, then it undermines the accretion of power, the concentration of power and wealth that Klaus Schwab and all of his compatriots have imposed on us over the last few decades. But the good news, and you know that I don't believe in hollow optimism, so I truly believe this is good news. The good news is that free people around the world are rising up. They're doing so in Europe. They did so recently in Argentina. I think they will do so very soon in Taiwan this weekend. And back to your question about America and the very reason our topic I'm speaking on in Davos, I think that's going to happen in 2024 because ultimately, as I mentioned in an op-ed today, if the free people and their will are not honored by those in power, then the free people will take matters into their own hands. I hate the idea of violence. Obviously, we believe in civility at Heritage, but we in our individual lives and on the social level believe that everything is at a breaking point. That's not just an emotion, it's a reality. And it's about time that we break the stranglehold of these self-appointed elites and take back power.
Kevin, I'm going to ask something that's going to be, it's hard for me to ask as someone who loves my country. It's going to be hard probably for you to answer because I know you're the same way, but you mentioned Argentina, you mentioned Europe, you mentioned these places that are rising up, fighting back for freedom on behalf of freedom, and that in America we're going to do that. Why haven't we done it yet? Why aren't we leading on that? America is supposed to be the land of the free. It's supposed to be our DNA. We lead with the freedom movement, and then other people follow. We're following Argentina now? Is that how far we've fallen?
That's a good observation, my friend, and I know that you don't enjoy asking that question any more than I enjoy answering it, but I will out of respect for you and respect for the truth. We shouldn't be following Argentina. We ought to be leading the way. Mm-hmm. The reason we haven't done so, frankly, is because we have a lot of self-appointed elites in Washington, D.C., who at the federal level, and frankly, these are both Democrats and Republicans, at the federal level have placed their own power, probably even their own wealth, over the priority of the will of the people. The good news, though, Jesse, the reason I believe firmly that we're on the brink of turning the corner is if you look at states, if you look at the local level, while many cities are just utter garbage, at the state and local levels, we have seen a lot of conservative or just common sense-minded Americans stand up. We've seen great policy successes. This is the key. We have to harness that energy we've seen at those state and local levels. We have to harness those ideas, and we have to impose those ideas and the popular will on Washington, not the other way around. And it's one of those things where, purely in a figurative sense, we can't take any prisoners, right? In a policy and idea sense, we have to impose our will on the next administration, the next Congress. If we do that this year and next, then I'm very hopeful about the American future.